Reports have surfaced that the Toronto Maple Leafs are looking to bring back 3 players next season, with 2 of them coming at a huge surprise. We'll get into this later on this episode. Before I start, I just want to say to thousands of you watching that aren't subscribed, if you're enjoying this daily NHL content and you never want to miss another episode, make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. We'll be all season long giving you updates from all around the league. With that, let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is Klingberg and Murray returning. So there was an article that came up from David Alter, and he said according to Toronto Star's Kevin McGran, both players are interested in possibly returning to Toronto, and while that might seem ridiculous to some, there is in play that would make it sense for the Toronto Maple Leafs with little cost and a big reward. Now, obviously, John Klingberg and Matt Murray spent most of their season with the Toronto Maple Leafs on LTIR, so going into this, there is a collective bargaining agreement with NHL's rulebook on Article 50.2, which says that players with recent injuries and based on experience can come back on a cheap performance bonuses. So eligibility is this clause applied to players who have played over 400 plus games for pension purposes. The criteria to qualify: these players must have spent at least 100 days on injury reserve in the last year of the most recent standard player contract. In the contract condition, these players must sign a 1-year SPC for the upcoming league year to be eligible for the performance bonuses. Now, when you do look at Matt Murray and John Klingberg, as I said, these guys spent majority of the season on LTIR, and these two coming back might be a sneaky bring back for the Toronto Maple Leafs. First person I want to touch on is obviously Matt Murray. He was acquired in a trade from the Ottawa Senators in the summer of 2022. He was limited to 26 games during the 2022-23 season and ended up spending the entire 23-24 season on LTIR with a hip resurfacing surgery. He returned to the team late this season, had a conditioning stint with the Marlies. But with Matt Murray, when you look at him, this is a guy that has won Stanley Cups. He has been a decent goaltender in the NHL when he can stay healthy. Obviously, seeing he played a few games for the Marlies, when healthy and playing with the Toronto Maple Leafs, he has put up some good numbers. Matt Murray is, of course, 30 years old. We've seen him on the Pittsburgh Penguins. We've seen him on the Ottawa Senators. And, of course, making his way to the Toronto Maple Leafs for the past 2 seasons. The biggest thing with Matt Murray is health. This guy cannot stay healthy, and obviously this is a big question mark for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But if you bring Matt Murray, a guy who has played multiple playoff games playing for the Pittsburgh Penguins, winning playoff games for the Pittsburgh Penguins, winning back-to-back Stanley Cup with the Pittsburgh Penguins, this guy can add value that a lot of fans might look over because of his injuries. Like I said, Matt Murray is 30 years old. He's getting to the middle of his career towards the end. This is a guy that needs a prove me contract. So what's better than bringing back a guy on a prove me contract that's all going to be in contract bonuses? The second guy I want to touch on before I get into that is, of course, John Klingberg, who Brad Treliving did bring in this offseason to help shore the defenseman up to bring some more offense from the D, which the Toronto Maple Leafs did miss quite a bit. Klingberg underwent hip surgery in New York and was given a 5 to 6 month timeline for his injury. He has been skating at the Leafs practice facility this month, making the most of his time with the Leafs staff before his contract expires on July 1st. So obviously looking at John Klingberg, this is a guy that's been around the NHL. He played with the Dallas Stars. He went over to Anaheim. He went to Minnesota before coming to Toronto. This is a guy at one point was considered one of the top offensive defenseman in the NHL. He's a guy that can be a perfect quarterback for a power play. And bringing Klingberg back, even at age 31, on a cheap performance bonus contract would be showing a lot of value for the Leafs. As I said, when you're looking at these guys, they need to hit these contracts. They need the eligibility criteria and the contract conditions. With this, both guys do hit it. Both players satisfy all requirements to sign a performance bonus contract. Even though Murray has only played 272 games, the 400 plus games for the pension purpose is account for goaltenders who don't play in as many games as skaters. Both spent more than 100 days on LTIR last season and were in the final year of the SPCs, so both players are eligible for the Toronto Maple Leafs to bring them back on cheap deals. Now, when you do look at these guys, and a lot of people are going to say, hey, Mark, you're crazy. Why would you bring them back? Looking at the Toronto Maple Leafs, and this is just a rough estimate on what the Leafs could look like if they don't bring anyone else back other than Matt Murray, who I has put in as the backup goaltender, but he would be a third-string goaltender, and John Klingberg, who would come in as the 5th defenseman. The big thing with this is the Leafs still have $16 million in cap space. These are guys that could come in under $800,000, $900,000, maybe even a $1 million contract that can prove that they are worth this. Obviously, injuries are going to be something that they need to be concerned about. This is something they need to look into. Is Matt Murray back from his hip surgery? Is a guy like John Klingberg ready to return? The big thing with this is you add some extra value for cheap. There's no other players in the NHL that you can bring in for $800,000 that can give you value more than that. Connor Brown, of course, went to the Edmonton Oilers on this kind of contract. He's shown that he can kind of turn his game around. He hasn't been scoring goals, but he has proven some just value for the Edmonton Oilers on a cheap contract. The big thing with these contracts are if you put the bonuses in, say it's $3 million bonus for John Klingberg if he reaches 60 points. If he hits that, it doesn't affect the team this season. It would affect the following season if you don't have the cap to give him. So this is just extra added depth the Toronto Maple Leafs can add to the roster. Like I said, at the worst, you bring in John Klingberg, who can turn around and become one of the top power play guys on their team, producing 30, 40, 50 points. After his hip surgery, things might be a little shaky. But if he can turn it around, it will look amazing. And a guy like Matt Murray, we've seen Martin Jones come in, hold down the third string. Having goaltending depth is something the Leafs need, especially with a guy like Matt Murray, Joseph Wolf, these guys looking like sometimes they can't stay 100% healthy. But what's your guys' thoughts on this? What's your thoughts on bringing two of these guys back, especially for a vet minimum, maybe $800,000, $900,000? Do you think Klingberg would work perfectly on the power play? Do you think you'd just rather let two of these guys walk and look to pick up another player at $1 million and hope he can do something? Let me know down in the comments. But with that, let's hop straight into the second topic, which continues on with everything. Tyler Bertuzzi engaged in contract talks. Now, obviously, there was a report from David Pagnotta from the fourth period. He said it's very clear in the process, early in the process to project where this will go, but the Leafs forever have started contract discussions with pending UFA Tyler Bertuzzi. Now, obviously, Tyler Bertuzzi came over on a one-year deal after Brad Treliving seeing how he performed for the Boston Bruins in the playoffs. He continued on to put up 4 points in 7 games for the Leafs. After having a very slow start to the season, he did pick things up in the second half, and he looked like a guy that could add a lot of value in this middle six for the Toronto's team. When you do look at Tyler Bertuzzi, as I said last year, he played with the Boston Bruins, playing his first playoffs with the Bruins as well. In 21 games, he had 4 goals, 12 assists, 16 points with the Bruins. This season, 21 goals, 22 assists, 43 points. He's a guy that has been around at the 20 to 30 goal range. We've seen him do 20 goals twice with the Detroit Red Wings. We've seen 30 goals with Detroit in 21-22. And as I said, he was a guy that performed incredibly for the Boston Bruins in the playoffs just last season. Now, when you do go back to the screenshot, it is a just kind of cap world where the Leafs need to figure out the cap. Obviously, I have guys like Fraser Minten just put in as a 5th center, as he might not make the team. A guy like Easton Cowan that could make this team as well to fill in that third line left wing. But it doesn't add a lot of depth. You see on the left side, you have Matthew Knies, who was outstanding these playoffs. You see a guy like Bobby McMahon, who never got to get into the playoffs due to injuries. Easton Cowan has been dominating in the OHL into the Memorial Cup. This guy could make the roster as well, but there is no proven NHL players on the left side, and this is where I think Tyler Bertuzzi would come back and be a perfect fit. How much is Bertuzzi going to get paid? No one really knows at this point. If they can bring him back on a 3, 4, 5-year deal at, say, $4 or $5 million per year, I think he's a perfect fit for this Leafs team. But what's your guys' thoughts on this? Are you excited to get Tyler Bertuzzi back if they can work things out? Would you rather prioritize a guy like Max Domi to bring back to this lineup? What's your thoughts on bringing Klingberg back? What's your thoughts on Murray coming back on an $800,000 deal just to kind of add insurance in net? Let me know down in the comments. But speaking of comments, let's get into everyone's favorite topic, which is comments of the day. Comment of the day comes from someone that's been subscribed to the channel for quite some time, watching a lot of videos. I see you commenting constantly, and it's awesome to see you guys enjoy the content. But he says Easton Cowan will make the Leafs lineup and stay. Could be on the third line and work his way up to the second line. I agree with this. Easton Cowan has been dominating in the OHL. He's too young for the AHL, so only the matter of time before he makes this Leafs team, gets an extended look. Maybe he makes straight out of the third lineup into the season after training camp. Who knows? It's going to be quite exciting. And I think this Leafs team is going to change quite a bit with some young talent coming in, with Brad Treliving sprinkling in what he wants his team to look like. But that'd be it for this episode of Hat Trick HQ. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to go down and leave a comment. You could be featured on the next episode as comment of the day. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be here all off season into next season, giving you updates from all around the NHL. I've been your host, Mark Pye. Take care.